Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, continuing our focus to the National Conference debate, and Mr. Richard Nwankwo of Crusade for Justice, also a legal practitioner. He joins us on this discussion today. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, the latest of which happens to be one of the members of this advisory committee making the rounds across the country, retired Colonel Tony Nyam. Yes, he's been replaced, and so who knows if that will quell the perception that they already have a preconceived notion or mindset about what they are set out to do. But from your perspective about this advisory committee's duties, how do you see it coming on so far?
Well, I sincerely believe that the call for a national dialogue is very, very proper at this point. And it is my belief also that the entire committee and the engagement they've had so far, falls within the picture of an properly ordered conference. And I think that all shades of opinion must be reflected. I think that is the cardinal issue at this critical point.
But how do you see it? Do you actually see that happening, all shades of opinion being reflected?
Well, I think it's pretty premature to make a categorical statement on that platform. But we must be very, very realistic at this point that the government means well, even though we are not at this critical point looking at the successes and failures of the present regime. But we are taking this in as a landmark, and we believe that there is that very, very strong and compelling need for us to sit together and talk. There are a lot of permutations within the political terrain, with a lot of injustices built into the constitution, a lot of biases, being reflected everywhere. I think these are the things that must be, addressed. And of course, that time is running out, because everything, even injustice, has an aspirational lifespan.
So I just need to get a couple of your reactions on something. On the 1st of October, when the president mentioned, the setting up of this advisory committee and a national dialogue, how did you feel, and what were your initial thoughts?
Well, of course, at that point, it was a kind of mixed reaction, because it's difficult to trust politicians at this point, having gone through an avalanche of disappointments. So when the president made that statement, we needed to see an instantaneous follow-up, and that is what I believe we are seeing now. And we believe we should allow the committee to move along the set path, and of course we'll be in a position to assess how far they have gone. And I also believe that making references to the previous conferences we've had in the past, they really go to no issue. I think it's a non sequitur.
Okay, so what were your thoughts also when the president now talked about, the imputes or the outcome of this national dialogue, when eventually it holds, going into the Constitution through the National Assembly?
On that issue, I think the president is not being properly advised. We are running a presidential system of government, and when you have this kind of political scenario, the final authority, the sovereignty, lies with the people. This is not a monarchical kind of government or what we have in the parliamentary system. This is an absolutely different style of governance. And like I have said, the problem we have in Nigeria is not our inability to copy. We are very quick at copying. But what we normally do over the years consistently, and maybe most unfortunately, is that we bastardize these concepts when we bring them in here. And that is why we are facing all these challenges. We all know what constitutional government is. We all know what federalism is. So why is our own, when you talk about homegrown federalism, that is why you have all these distortions. And the platform, like I have said repeatedly, you cannot run a presidential system predicated on the kind of decree we have. Decree of 1999, the so-called constitution.
So
it's a decree.
What you're looking at is not that the outcome of this national dialogue will go into the 1999 constitution. What you're looking at is a brand new constitution.
What we're going to do is that whatever comes out from this national dialogue will go back to a referendum. We have to go back to the people and ask them, because there are a lot of critical issues. I will tell you just one, because that is what we are presently campaigning for. It is mathematically impossible to move this nation forward with the number of states we have.
How?
It is also impossible. I'm sure the people in Abuja are listening. It is also impossible to have the bloated National Assembly with the kind of reckless allocation of funds that are going to them to talk about development. What is the recurrent expenditure? These are the issues you have to look at. 36 state governors, for what reason? Then you look at other dispensations. We copy from America. We fail to copy the entire pattern of what is obtainable in America. The state of Texas is the 11th most powerful economy in the world. The state of California is number 6. I'm coming. If you take away California from the United States of America and you call a G7 meeting in terms of economic might, California will be there. So there are indices on which some of these state creations. You don't create state for Mr. A because Mr. B is a political follower for some years. You carve another state and give them. These states are absolutely economically redundant.
Yeah, but they went through,
and you see their governors busy going all over the place.
But they didn't happen by fiat. They went through certain processes before they were created. And it's assumed that the entire country was behind it by reason of the decision of their representatives in the National Assembly.
You see, you must have to appreciate the fact that when you talk about these representatives, who are these representatives? That is what we are going to look at now.
The ones that people voted.
A lot of people, listen, a lot of people are now saying, or some of the snippets of information we are now having, that the local governments are going to be represented in this arrangement. If that happens, a state like Kano will have 44 delegates. Before you talk about civil society, you talk about ethnic groupings and all that. You see, the fact is that there is a culture of justice. There is a culture of fairness and equity. You just can't come out from a mechanic workshop and start talking about equity, fairness, and justice. There is a culture. And that culture must be put on the table. That fairness must be put on the table. There are strategic indices of bias in the way this country is being governed. I will give you a classical example. Is there anybody, can the National Assembly come out today and tell me why the entire Southeast should not have an international airport?